In August 1944, a great tank battle was fought on these fields. One of the men killed in the action was Germany's highest-scoring Panzer Ace. Michael Wittmann was known as the Black Baron. He had killed 138 tanks, and he was a hero of the Third Reich. Like the death of the Red Baron in the First World War, there's been some controversy over who killed Michael Wittmann. We have come back to this battlefield in Normandy to re-examine the evidence and determine who killed Michael Wittmann. This is where the remains of Michael Wittmann were found in 1983. And of course, a lot of groups have claimed that they killed Michael Wittmann. The British claim that they have done it.
Quite frankly, I'm quite pleased that I got rid of it.
There's rumors that a Typhoon aircraft came in and killed him.
It was found with the turret blown off. Only a Typhoon could have done that.
And there's some that say the Canadians got him.
I believe the Sherbrooks did knock out Michael Wittmann.
To resolve the mystery of who killed Michael Wittmann, we're going to have to look at the battlefield and analyze it. We're going to have to look at the armor of both sides, and we're going to look at the men who fought in the battles in Normandy. This is the men of the Sherbrooks, the Northamptonshire Yeomanry, and of course the German Panzer Corps. And the most famous is Michael Wittmann, Germany's top Panzer Ace.
Michael Wittmann is born in 1914 and grows up a farm boy with ambition of greater things. At 19, he joins the military and quickly makes his way up through the ranks. By the war's outbreak in 1939, he is serving in the Führer's own elite guard, the Leibstandard Adolf Hitler of the Waffen-SS. Commanding a self-propelled gun, he quickly distinguishes himself on the battlefield, earning a reputation as a fearless leader. But this is only the beginning for Michael Wittmann. In the spring of 1943, he is given command of one of Germany's most fearsome weapons, the Tiger tank. Assigned to the Eastern Front, Wittmann's bold tactics claim an impressive 56 tanks and artillery pieces in just over 6 months. By the end of January 1944, his overall tally soars to an amazing 100 kills. His exploits become headline news throughout Germany. Dubbed the Black Baron by both friend and foe, in February, Wittmann is decorated by Hitler himself. But for all the accolades, his greatest victory still lies ahead, battling the Allied invasion force on the Western Front. June 6, 1944, the Allies launch their invasion of Normandy. The German High Command quickly orders 4 divisions forward to reinforce the Normandy front, including the 2nd Company of the 101st SS Panzer Battalion, now commanded by Michael Wittmann. On June 13th, as a column of British armor rolls in to occupy the village of Villers-Bocage, the Black Baron pulls up just outside town.
I'm with Daniel Taylor, who's an expert on the Battle of Villers-Bocage, and he's going to explain what happened on June 13th, 1944. So what was happening here with Wittmann's Tigers?
Well, they'd found themselves in this little lane. They'd been advancing from Belgium for about 5 or 6 days. The unit was strung out across hundreds of miles. They'd managed to get here with 5 tanks. The place presents pretty good cover.
So they're encamped along this lane?
Yeah, dispersed along it, yes.
So what happens in the morning?
Well, in the morning, Wittmann's roused by the sound of tanks coming along the road.
So they're literally, what, 200 yards away?
About that. He'd have seen as the turrets went along that line.
Right up on top of here?
Up there, yes.
Okay, so now Wittmann, what's his reaction to this?
Well, he's got very few options left open to him. There's probably an argument about what he should have done, but what he decided to do was attack.
Ich hatte keine Zeit, meine Kompanie aufzustellen. Ich musste schnell handeln. Ich fuhr los mit nur einem Panzer bis zur Säule und überraschte die Engländer genauso viel, wie sie mich überrascht haben.
Wittmann's come barreling across the field. First shot, takes out a Firefly.
He's hitting them from, what, 50 yards?
If that, yes. Point blank range.
So he's not going to miss.
The rest of his unit is trying to engage A squadron up on the top of the hill you can see there. And he's come across the field and he runs into a column of transport. They all start bursting into flame.
So now he's going to drive into town and he's leaving dead and burnt out vehicles behind him. So the guys in the village, do they know what's going to hit them?
Absolutely not, no. It's going to be a big, rude surprise to them any second now. So Wittmann's come down, he's run into these 4 Cromwell tanks, which you think might have a bit of a chance against him. He manages to get a couple of shots off at the Tiger before he's taken out. They just bounce off.
So they're bouncing off at, what, 50 yards?
50 yards, no distance at all. The following Cromwell has pulled behind this wall and pulled into the courtyard of that building.
Right.
That's commanded by Captain Dias.
I suddenly saw this Tiger tank shooting down the main street. I got the driver to reverse our tank into a farmyard. And in the next moment, to my astonishment, with no gunner in our gunner seat, the Tiger went right in front of me.
Unfortunately for the Cromwell, the gunners just got out to have a pee. And so there's no way that he can fire. With the
So he's missed a
broadside-
glorious chance.
Glorious chance. The Tiger's passing side on right in front of him. No way of firing. The Tiger then passes on, turns into the high street. Another target-rich environment.
Wittmann's rampage claims a total of 12 tanks and 15 other vehicles, all in a little under 10 minutes. Deciding not to push his luck any further, he retreats back through the village.
So how many tanks and soft-skin vehicles did he get credited for this attack?
Well, the Germans credited him with an entire regiment.
In diesem Ort prallten die Panzer zusammen. In den engen Straßen wurde eine stärkere amerikanische Panzereinheit gestellt und zusammengeschossen. Seit dem ersten Tag der Invasion haben die Angloamerikaner rund 1000 schwere und schwerste Panzer verloren.
Wittmann's attack on the British is a huge gamble that pays off. With it, he single-handedly breaks the Allies' momentum and stalls their advance out of Normandy. For his actions at Villers-Bocage, the Black Baron is once again decorated by Adolf Hitler. The ambitious farm boy has now become a living legend. But Wittmann's luck is running out. In less than 2 months, the Third Reich's mighty Black Baron will be dead, leaving behind an enduring mystery surrounding his death. June 13th, 1944, Panzer Commander Michael Wittmann makes military history with a daring solo attack on a British armored column at the Norman village of Villers-Bocage. His actions that day stall the Allied advance on the strategic town of Caen, and it takes nearly 2 more months of bloody combat in the surrounding area to finally drive the Germans out.
We're on the road south of Caen, going to the village of Syntho, the place of Michael Wittmann's final battle. Throughout July 1944, the Allies launched a number of offensives at Caen, finally capturing it and pushing into the fields to the south. It was some of the most severe fighting of the Normandy campaign. Throughout July, the Allies advanced a very short distance with tremendous casualties. No one suffered worse than the tankers, and in 1 month of battle, more than 400 Allied tanks were destroyed.
One of the first things we saw in Normandy was a knocked-out Sherman tank. And it had gone up in flames, as Shermans were infamous for exploding, going into a sheet of flame 20 or 30 feet high. The tank that we saw still had 2 or 3 of the crew sitting inside, but no longer recognizable as human beings.
The Germans used to call us Tommy Cookers because they burnt so easily. I became a fatalist overnight. And I'm glad I did, because I think that's the only way you could survive.
And one, at that point, realized that we were in tremendous danger, because this was something that Germans could obviously do with their great guns.
They'd go in one side, out the other sort of thing of some of our tanks. But the main thing was that they could knock out our tanks at a safe distance.
And we had not been informed in any way that this is the fate that waited us just up the road. In your mind, every German tank was a Tiger, because the Tiger was the terror, and if it was a Tiger, then you had to fight for your life.
Each one of us, you know, you had the jitters every time you saw the buggers because the gun was so much superior.
Technically, the range needed to knock out a Tiger by a 75 was about 2 or 3 inches. The shots from 75 were bouncing off like ping pong balls. One thing we had in advantage was what we called a Firefly. It was still the normal Sherman, but the 75mm gun, which was about 6-pounder, had been replaced by a 17-pounder. For the first time, we realized we now had a tank which was equal to the Tiger, and we were able to believe it.
August 7th, 1944, more than 25,000 British and Canadian troops assemble for Operation Totalize, a major offensive devised to crack the German defensive line south of Caen. Unlike previous operations, Totalize is planned as a night assault to confuse the Germans and limit their response. It begins at midnight, August 8th. The initial attack is a success, and in less than 4 hours, the Allies break through the German lines and begin advancing south. Progress in the dark is slow for some units, while others, like the Northamptonshire Yeomanry and the Sherbrooke Fusiliers, proceed quickly to their objectives. Isolated from the main force, they dig in for the inevitable German counterattack. And so it is, in the early hours of August 8th, the stage is set for the Allies' final confrontation with the Black Baron.
The Northamptonshire Yeomanry were one of 2 units involved in the killing of Michael Wittmann. And to recreate what happened to Wittmann, we have to find out exactly where they were. Now, we know that in 1944, they hid in the orchard south of St. Agnan. But in 60 years, a lot of things have changed. For example, the orchards aren't there anymore, so we're going to have to try to determine where they were. And this is also true of the Sherbrooke's position, and it's going to be a little challenging to try to find out exactly where everybody was. Now we're on a small country road south of St. Agnan. And by 8 a.m., the yeomanry were on their objective, which was the village. They had discharged their infantry. They moved south into these woods, and they built defensive positions in case there was a German counterattack.
Today there's no orchards and very little woods, but this whole area was wooded in 1944. And from here they got a commanding view of the area to the south and to the west. You can see the Route Nationale over here, and the Germans were further south. But as the yeomanry were digging in, the Canadians were also advancing west of the Route Nationale. So what we're going to do is we're going to go by the Canadian Cemetery, and just a little bit north of it is Gumisnel, which is a very, very small hamlet. And this is where the Sherbrooks set up. We know it was in a stone wall around an old chateau. Here's, looks like our wall. So this is our first entrance into Gumisnel. So we'll go right into the middle of the hamlet, and we'll ask where this chateau was. So this is the eastern outskirts of the hamlet of Gumisnel, and we're right on the Route Nationale. You can see the cars coming by. They're routing our battlefield. So what I'm looking for is an old wall that belonged to an old chateau. And there's a lot of old stuff around here. Pardonnez-moi, monsieur. Bonjour, monsieur, ça va? Ça va. Et je cherche pour le place pour le vieux château et le vieux mur.
Oui, voilà. Tout de suite, on est ici.
Oui.
Là, la maison. Et le vieux château, ici.
OK.
Et un mur tout autour, comme ça. Le château, il a brûlé avec les Anglais. Mais ce n'était pas l'aviation, ni les chars, ni le... il a brûlé.
C'est un accident.
Accident bête, oui. Accident... beaucoup...
Merci, monsieur.
Voilà.
So what's happened is the old chateau was just north of here, and that the wall came around. It was a huge wall that went up to this area around about 30 meters down that way, then down to the main road. Then at the end of the war, the chateau burnt down, and apparently a bunch of English soldiers got drunk and the thing caught fire. So this is the correct wall. I want to see if I can get inside there to see exactly what the Sherbrooks could see on the day of the battle. When I got through here. So that certainly looks like the wall we're looking for. If you look over here, you can actually see the work of the Sherbrooks. You can see the holes over there. Those are Sherman-size holes. And that's where they would have broken through. You can also see where they knocked down the wall to firing height. And of course, this is where they set up some of their defensive positions. It gave them an incredible field of fire, and if the Germans wanted to attack from Sintho north, the Sherbrooks had them. So, based on the description, the Sherbrooks were hiding behind here. But what's really exceptional about this is that they were so well hidden that no one even knew they were here. And even the histories of the war afterwards don't mention anything about the Sherbrooks being here. Walters had picked such a superb position that no one was ever going to find him. But what he didn't know was that about a mile away to the south at the village of Sintho, the SS are having their little conference, their ops group, and they're planning a counterattack. And one of the men that's going to be in the counterattack is Michael Wittmann.
For the Germans, the situation is critical. Operation Totalize has broken their defensive line, decimating an entire division in the process. Now it threatens to cut off all remaining German units in Normandy. They have no choice but to strike back without delay to halt the Allied advance. Kurt Meyer, commanding the 12th SS Division, is ordered to launch a counterattack near the Route Nationale. Faced with overwhelming odds, Meyer calls upon the one man capable of turning the tide, the Black Baron.
We're in the northern end of the village of Syntho, and on August 8, 1944, it was where the Germans made their plans to do something about the breakthrough of total ice. So right in this area, Kurt Meyer met with Michael Wittmann and other officers to discuss what measures were going to be taken for the counterattack. Their main concern was a series of Canadian tanks back over the ridge. He saw them massing. He knew they were going to have a large offensive coming very quickly, so he ordered Wittmann to take his Tigers, as well as some other tanks and some SP guns, to come and hit the Canadians. Sort of like what he did at Villers-Bocage. Get out there quick and try to put them in disarray and buy some time for the Germans. So at 11:30, he shook hands with Meyer and he went to his Tigers. At 12:30, they had launched their attack. Called for 5 tanks to come across this field and 2 to go on the other side of the Route Nationale. Their objective was to get over the hill and hit the Canadian tanks that were massing there for the second phase of Operation Total Ice. It takes them about 10 minutes to get into this area, and bang, the first Tiger gets hit. In the meantime, Wittmann is over by the Route Nationale. He must have seen this because his radio communication goes,
Achtung! Achtung! Flak von rechts! Flak von rechts!
The second tank goes up. It's brewed completely up in the air. And the third tank is disabled because they've hit the wheels of the track and it's trying to get out and it's retreating. In fact, it goes backwards across this field and bang, it goes up. So in a few minutes, the field is all burning wreckage. The men are climbing out of the turrets. They're bringing their wounded. They're trying to get out of here before they're shot down. And as they go by, they see Tiger number 007, and it's not moving, and its turret is askew to the east.
In the aftermath, no one is sure exactly what has become of the Black Baron. He simply declared missing in action. At the time, the only clues to his fate were a few scattered reports from surviving German tankers.
When I looked out to the left, I saw that Michael's tank wasn't moving. The turret was displaced to the right and tilted down to the front somewhat. When I got to within about 250 to 300 meters, as a flame suddenly shoot from the tank, and the turret fly off and fall to the ground.
These accounts would remain unsubstantiated for decades, until a photo of the battlefield taken by a French farmer in 1945 confirmed at least some of the details surrounding the destruction of Tiger 007. Since then, more and more evidence has been surfacing in the field near Gosmenil.
C'est votre collection?
Voilà, c'est la collection.
Les pièces par le champ de bataille.
Beaucoup de choses ramassées par mon père, oui.
Non, vous trouvez
Oui.
toutes les pièces et votre père
Oui.
trouvé à quelle place? Dans le champ?
Oui.
Ouais.
Là où on a trouvé les corps, oui.
Ouais, et toute la région aussi? C'est
Oh,
pour les autres pièces?
aussi, mais voilà, je peux vous dire, certifié que celui-ci vient de
Sur le champ de bataille.
007, oui, voilà.
Oh, bon.
C'est pas le plus beau, il est abîmé, mais
So this is remarkable to actually touch the pieces of our investigation. This is the real thing.
la réglophone,
Pour la gauche.
voilà, j'ai plus besoin du micro.
Ah, c'est
Oui.
This
Faut
is
l'essayer.
they would talk through this part. So they talk to their throat and it would go out. It's quite unique to the Germans.
Il est probable qu'ils viennent du type de Wittmann.
Oui, je pense.
C'est cette pièce.
Oh, oui, that's
Oui.
from Wittmann's Tiger. Wow. Look at that. Ooh. This is an 88 armored piercing shell. So this is where the charge is, and they load it in the gun. Go
Oui, oui, oui.
avec le feu. That's why the tiger was deadly.
Cette pièce aussi, c'est une trappe qui était dans le fond de la tourelle.
Oui. C'est le plancher de la tourelle.
C'est le plancher, une partie du plancher de la tourelle, oui.
Oui. Wittmann, il a marché là.
Oui.
Bien sûr.
Oui, oui.
Pour la dernière fois aussi.
La dernière fois, oui. Et même
So.
sa femme a pleuré quand elle a vu cette pièce.
Oui, c'est ça. Par la photo, je pense.
Voilà.
C'est
C'est ce qui comble le vide du cercle là.
Oui, la grande explosion fait comme ça.
Oui.
Et les pouces. Et qu'est-ce que c'est ici?
Ceci, oui, c'est une toile que j'ai fait le même jour que les deux cercles de la tourelle.
So this is a rocket fired from a Typhoon that was found at a similar time as they dug up these pieces from the Tiger. This gives us another dimension of who could possibly have killed Michael Wittmann.
These relics from Tiger 007 provide the first pieces of tangible evidence, linking battlefield accounts with a photo of Wittmann's wrecked tank in the field near Gosmenil. But they still have yet to reveal what became of the Black Baron himself, and more importantly, who it was that fired the fatal shot. To find answers, Norm Christie must reconstruct the battlefield, first by pinpointing the precise location where Wittmann's tank was destroyed.
So we're on the battlefield of August 8, 1944, right beside the route nationale. Michel, qu'est-ce que vous trouvez en 83 ici?
Nous, beaucoup plus, ici 60-70 mètres. Environ 60 mètres peut-être. Nous sommes vraiment certainement sur l'endroit où les 5 hommes étaient.
Avec l'insigne de SS ou...
Oui, sur le Wittmann, oui, il y avait la veste encore, en cuir.
So what Michel has told us is that they found a few remains just below the surface here. First some on top, a few fragments of bones, and then they called the German war graves in and they started to dig, and they dug down and found more remains. They found Panzer tanker uniforms, identity discs, a pistol that belonged to Michael Wittmann found here. So they came to the conclusion that the remains found here were the collective remains of Tiger 007, which was Wittmann's tank for the attack on August 8th. So now we know out of the 4 Tigers that were destroyed on this field, that the one here belonged to Michael Wittmann.
But the question remains as to who fired the fatal shot. Having established the positions of the Allied units, Norm will attempt to resolve whether it was the Yeomanry or the Sherbrooks that killed the Black Baron.
From here we have the positions of the Sherbrooks. We know that they were located just behind the chateau. And of course we know that the Yeomanry were over there at St. Etienne. So we have that position and this position, which was the pinchers that caught the Tiger attack. So now, using some aerial photographs taken in 1944, we can actually piece together the history of what happened to Michael Wittmann.
On August 8th, 1944, Germany's greatest tank commander, Michael Wittmann, was killed in this field. So far, Norm Christie has pinpointed the positions of the British and Canadian forces, along with the final location of Wittmann's tank. Now, using aerial reconnaissance photos from 1944, he will determine once and for all who killed the Black Baron.
I'm with Jan Juo, and he's an expert on the battlefield here near Sintho, and he's going to help us put together the mystery of Michael Wittmann. Let's look at what we got. This is the original photograph, so this shows how it was before. Now, this area has changed quite a lot, hasn't it?
Yes, in large parts, yeah.
But we do have the fields where the 4 Tigers were.
Yeah.
We're okay there. That's where Wittmann's remains were found.
Yeah,
and
closest
that's
to the road.
Yeah, and that's where Sturge's photograph of 007 was taken
That's
in
correct.
1945. So the other part is where the yeomanry were. Now, what's changed in this area?
Particularly the orchards there, to the right of Wittmann's group.
Right.
Most of them have gone, disappeared completely.
So we don't know exactly where they were, but we can do it within 50 yards.
Oh, yes, I should think so.
So the next piece is, of course, the Sherbroughs. Now, that chateau and the wall, a lot of that's all gone now, right? The Sherbroughs are going to be the challenge because we also don't know which Sherbrough took the shots. So let's go set it up and try to recreate this battle that really took place in about, what, 10, 12 minutes?
Oh, yeah, at most.
Let's go get the surveyor and find out what really happened.
Okay.
So this is the position where 007 was knocked out. This was Wittmann's tank, and this is where we're going to start our investigation. So we're going to analyze the field from really a line of sight from the various positions to see what they could actually see. And then we're going to use surveying and GPS to do the rest, to get our distances. So we can ask Vincent to set this as our original point 0, and then we'll go out and find the locations of the other tigers over here. So we'll head out and let's do the one that was due east first.
Right.
Using the aerial photographs from 1944, Norm plots the field positions of the 4 wrecked tigers. The yeomanry claims that their gunner, Joe Atkins, took out Wittmann along with 2 others, a remarkable feat, to say the least. Norm is returning to the yeomanry's position south of Saint-Agnan to examine the battlefield from there to test the validity of the British claim.
So let's look at it. So we got Syntho over here, Lumisnel, okay, and we've got the yeomanry over here all set up, nicely dug in. So now they're ready for any counterattack should there be one. And of course, the Germans usually did very quickly.
We were, by midday, aware that the Germans had got to come. They couldn't leave us there any longer. There were 4, certainly 4 tigers, which came down on what would have been our side of the main road.
I saw these 3 tigers come in, across in front of us, about 1,200 yards away. Our tank commander told us to wait till they get to about 800 yards. I was now starting to get a bit itchy. The tank commander said, advance driver, and we pull out of cover. As we pull out of cover, he says, target the rear tiger. Can't see very much. You're looking through a periscope that big. At 800 yards, I mean, they're tiny, you know. I fired. As we were reversing back into cover, I'd look round at the second tank. I was probably more frightened, but I was sort of thinking, get the bastards before they get me. I fired one shot at the second tank in line. He immediately blew up. The third one definitely was milling around looking for cover. As soon as I was ready to fire, I fired.
The yeomanry are here. They claim there's 3 tigers coming up, and they hit all 3 of them. So what's the danger area for a Firefly? How far can they shoot effectively?
Effectively, they would shoot at 800 meters, I would say. They could shoot at as far as 1,200 meters. But from here, that would be a very, very lucky shot.
Right.
I think we're looking at Wittmann's tiger there.
Right.
Was about 1 kilometer away.
So let's ask Vincent. Can you give me the third one?
767 meters.
And the second one we did?
754 meters.
Okay, 754. So that's this one. That's that one there. 754. How far to tank one?
775.
775. So that's within 800. That's a good
right,
distance
yes.
for a Firefly. Now, how far is the Wittmann one?
967.
967. So it's almost a kilometer. So 1,100 yards, which was at the very top of the range for the gun.
There are several things to consider. These three Tigers here in the line are the closest to this place here where Northamptonshire Yeomanry was located. So it would make sense for them to have taken them out first anyway, because they are within 800 meters range.
So from here, you would see those three Tigers very clearly on the horizon as they came across. But Wittmann is over the rise down towards that white building over there, Gomesnell. You know, maybe a lucky shot would go through. That'd be a very skilled shot. But that would mean they got 4 Tigers.
Yeah.
So that doesn't fit with the belief of what the Yeomanry got that day. You can see why the 3 Tigers would be sitting ducks, but the 4th one would be quite a challenge.
Norm Christie's investigation into who killed the Black Baron has pinpointed the positions of all the Tiger tanks destroyed near Saint-Thau on August 8, 1944. And his analysis of the British Yeomanry's position south of Saint-Aignan has brought their claim into question. He's now traveling to Gosminium to locate the position of the Canadian tanks and survey the battlefield from their perspective to determine whether they could have fired the kill shot.
So, these are the grounds of the old chateau, right?
Yes.
Now, the wall that surrounded it, most of the northern part is gone, but the southern part is still there. We found that the other day. So we know that the Sherbrooks came into this area. Now, your aerial photograph shows that they made holes in some of the walls that were on the Route Nationale, which of course is right here.
There's about 2 big holes we can see in this wall. One would be right in front of us, back here, and the other one would be a bit further to the left, on that side.
We came here earlier to try to find out or look for proof that the Sherbrooks were here. We found small marks, but we didn't realize at the time how much of the wall was missing. And specifically, that there were breaks in the walls facing east towards where the Tigers would have advanced.
There was a couple right on the road, and it was from that general area that the first German tanks came out from Saint-Thau. Right away, I can remember the wireless net becoming active. I can see them, there's some tanks coming. But with my eyes, I could see the tank closest to the road, about 200 yards, I guess. I didn't fire at him. Other people from my squadron were firing at it now. I don't recall the actual tank blowing up by somebody firing at him. I can remember a tremendous explosion and seeing the turret hit the ground.
Are you surprised to see how close we are to Wittmann's tank?
Yes, I am indeed, yeah. Because even when you look at the aerial photograph, it doesn't seem so close. And when you're actually standing in the field, looking over from this side to where Wittmann's tank was destroyed, it certainly looks very close indeed.
So let's ask Vincent exactly how far we are from Wittmann's tank. So Vincent, can you give me a distance to Tiger number 1, Wittmann's?
143 meters.
143 meters. That's incredibly close. So we have this situation. We know where his tank was, just over here. So we have the Sherbrooks positions here, and they're shooting in that direction towards Wittmann's tank. Now you have a schematic of it.
I showed a drawing of a Tiger, and Serge was actually able to draw the precise area where he observed a big impact, which was located on the left forward cooling grid.
So this is left rear of Wittmann's tank. So
That's right.
your trajectory would be very low here
Yes, it
because
would.
you're so close.
Mhm.
So it's most likely then that would come from this position.
Yes.
And then it went in, and gradually it ignited the fuel and the ammunition, and the turret blew off. That's amazing. I'm surprised we're this close. I thought we'd be around 500 meters, and now we're 150. So really, it almost has to be the Canadians. Can you think of any alternative?
Well, Monsieur Varin, who took the photograph that we see here, he's actually suggested that it could have been a Typhoon rocket because he photographed a non-exploded Typhoon rocket that was lying nearby the tank. The reason I would doubt it is a Typhoon rocket is that A, they were ripple fire and weren't very accurate. It would be very difficult to hit a tank. The second thing is that the Typhoon rocket has several pounds worth of explosive, and if the rocket hit the Tiger, the rear of the Tiger would be blown apart.
Right.
So you wouldn't be able to see the hull in one piece.
So there's no evidence of really burning in this.
No, no.
There's just no proof that it happened.
It's unlikely.
So we're left with really one thing here.
The Canadian.
Sherbrooke's had to do it.
Yes.
Having examined the battlefield from the German, British, and Canadian positions, it's now possible for the first time to reconstruct the Battle of Saint-Thô and accurately recreate the attack that killed German Panzer Ace Michael Wittmann. It is now clear that Joe Ekins, from his position near Saint-Aignan, did destroy 3 Tigers. But it's difficult to believe Ekins could have fired the shot that killed Wittmann, especially in the face of strong evidence that indicates that the fatal shot came from the direction of the Canadian tanks at Gosmenil. A position only 143 meters from the Black Baron's Tiger. Following the Battle of Saint-Thô, the Allies pushed further south, continuing their advance against the remaining German units defending Normandy. In just 80 days, they completely encircled the retreating German army. The Battle of Normandy is all but over. In all, 100,000 men lose their lives, including 50,000 German soldiers.
This is La Cambre German Cemetery in Normandy, and it's the largest German cemetery in Normandy, and it contains 21,000 graves, including 2 of the Tiger commanders killed August 8, 1944. This is Willy Irion. He was the commander of one of the Tigers knocked out going across the field, and you can see it's a collective grave with some of his crew members here. These are always just partial remains because of the fire inside the tank, as they say, brewed up, and there'd be very little after the battle to even bury. One tanker told me the story of burying his crew, and they buried them in a mess tin. You can always tell Wittmann's grave because it's surrounded by flowers. Since the war, Wittmann has become legendary. There are websites dedicated to him. And this is all very nice, but we should not forget what he fought for. Sometimes we have a tendency to romanticize these people when they're really fighting for Adolf Hitler. This is Wittmann's collective grave here, and this is where his partial remains were put in 1983. They had a large ceremony, and Wittmann's widow came to it, and they honored him, and they continue to honor him. Michael Wittmann lived his life on the edge. He became famous because of his willingness to take risks, to take advantage of opportunities. But for him to make that charge towards the Canadians on Hill 112 was suicide.
I have a feeling that Wittmann had been in the war so long that when it got to that point, they were realizing that the war was lost. and whether his last thoughts as he went down the road were simply, Valhalla, here I come.
The Sherbrouks did knock out Michael Wittmann. And you didn't make very much of it, because none of us knew who the hell this guy was.
He accepted the doctrines of Hitler enough to get in his tank and invade other people's countries, left country after country. Anybody who goes into another person's country to kill is a criminal. I'm afraid he might have been a hero to the Germans, but not to me.